All right, so I've been debating on whether to put this video up or not because the last time we talked about this incident, this issue, this COVID-19 stuff, there was some unpleasant comments in there. And this was early on when I was giving my opinion about the whole thing. There were some people who took it to heart, who were really ended up, doing whatever, saying whatever. And it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. So I debated putting this up, but now that a lot of the data and the statistics are up, I thought, you know what? I just want the truth to be out there. I just want people to truly understand and do the research on their own. So anything that we talk about today, I'm going to put links in the description to where you can go and look at this stuff yourself. You can see the truth for yourself. Some of it's still going to be opinion-based, but the majority of this is all data-driven. It's all statistics. But we have facts now. We have data. We have statistics to show that what I was saying about this thing probably being here earlier is coming to fruition. It is true. They're now saying they originally thought January 20th was the first case. They're seeing that people died weeks before that from this. Which then puts this whole timeline into December. And other statistics are showing that way more than what they're showing have already had this thing or currently have COVID-19. When you look at the statistics of this, according to the Worldometer, who keeps track of this, we've got over 900,000 cases with 51-ish thousand deaths. The problem with the death count is we're not exactly sure if that's a legitimate number or if it's a little bit made up. And this is one of those opinion things because when they came out and started sending the documents to the doctors, to the hospitals, saying this is how we want you to correlate these deaths, this is how we want you to show what they are, they're basically pressing these doctors, they're pressing these administrations to classify deaths as COVID-19 that shouldn't be classified as COVID-19. So when you have people who are sitting in hospice who are already dying from cancer or from whatever it may be, and then they end up dying and they contracted COVID-19, that doesn't mean that we should label them as COVID-19 deaths. And it's actually really making some people upset. There's been an awful lot of people who've made a big stink saying their family members are being classified as COVID-19 deaths when they really had cancer or they really had heart disease or they were a longtime smoker or something, and they're not happy about it. And rightfully so, because all that's doing is they're using those people, those victims, to press their agenda and to try to make it seem like they didn't screw this thing up from the beginning. We know now, looking at the numbers, that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and the WHO, the WHO, I guess I should say, screwed this whole thing up. Their numbers were not good. From the beginning, they said, at worst case, with no mitigation put on, we would see 200 million cases and 2.2 million deaths. They used this data, and I'm going to let them slide on that. I think that was a little obviously now, but from the beginning I said that was way off. That was way off base. But I'm going to let them slide on the first one because there was too many unknowns. We had no idea what this thing really was. We didn't know how much it was spreading. We didn't really have much information other than what China and some of the other small countries were saying. Not China's obviously not a small country, but I'm talking about the other countries that are smaller that were contracting the virus. And later we found out China was pretty much lying about their numbers. So we run into an issue of, well, this was off. Now we have to recorrect this. And they came out and they corrected it and they said, okay, I think we're doing a pretty good job with social distancing. Now I think it's going to be anywhere from 100 to 240,000 deaths. And here again, I'm sitting there like, where are you coming up with this? Like, we're looking at the data that the CDC and everybody has provided, and nowhere in that, when you put the numbers together, does it make sense of somehow we're going to get to 100,000 deaths, let alone 240. And here's how they kind of got away with it, because they were like, every single week they kept pushing it back. They're like, well, next week's going to be bad. We're going to see exponential growth, and this thing is going to continue to triple every day. We're already seeing it triple every 3 days, so now it's going to triple every day. And it just didn't happen. It never happened. And they kept lowering their projections. They kept getting to a spot where they're like, okay, well, now we're going to lower it to 80,000. And then they lowered it to 60, and now they're saying below 60. But we're at 51,000. So now it's almost as if they're trying to make it to where they estimate lower and end up higher, to say, see, we were right. This lockdown was the right thing to do. But now we have a couple of different pieces of data that are showing that this thing has been here for a while. A study from Stanford and some studies from some doctors from different areas. We had one from California, we had one from Illinois, and we had one from Massachusetts. And then we also just got one recently today from New York. And all of these studies are showing the exact same consensus. They're showing that it's anywhere from 40 times to 85 times too low is what our number is right now. So we're looking at 900,000 cases that we have right now. And they're projecting that that is 40 times too low, at minimum 40 times too low of what they're actually seeing. And they're taking those numbers and they're basically saying, okay, if we've got this many cases based on these 5,000 people we tested, and we're showing 12% have had this, we got to take and press and figure that at least 12% of our population in that state has had it. And the middle ground has been showing that it's 40 to 80 times more than what we have. So if we take the data that we know, the 900,000, and we multiply it by 40, we're looking at 36 million cases. Now, if we do the math, trying to figure out the new death toll, that 36 million turns into about a 0.14% death toll or death rate based on the 51,000 deaths that we've seen throughout the nation. Now, keep in mind, again, those deaths are not all COVID-19 deaths. And you can argue with me till you're blue in the face. When they are pressing people, they're pressing these administrations to show more COVID-19 cases and deaths than what there actually is, you're going to see a much bigger number than what is actually out there. Because if you look at the data, I'm going to put it on the screen, you can see flu cases fell to the floor from February and March. You just didn't see them anymore. Granted, there was a slowdown. Every year it slows down in March, not in February. February it basically dropped off, and in March it went to nothing. There's 0 flu cases all of a sudden. So they're literally taking those cases and calling it COVID. So the flu, I can't wait until next year when the data comes out and we can look at this year's data compared to other years. All of a sudden the flu data is just down, unless they manipulate it somehow. But with what they're showing right now, it's going to be way down. You're going to only see 10,000 flu deaths or so. But remember, and the other reason why we said that this thing has been here for so long is because back in November, they had this big, the media was going in this frenzy about how the flu is off to a boom and start already. The flu has been crazy bad over the first couple of months. And the data showed, I'll pull it up and I'll show you, from October to December 11th, there were 2.5 million flu cases in that time with a bunch of deaths. And then there was those unexplained respiratory viruses that were testing negative for the flu and they couldn't figure out exactly what it was. Now I think we have a pretty good clue what it was. So with this thing being here in, let's call it December. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll just call it December. There's no way this thing didn't peak well before March. There's no way. It had to. If it's as contagious as what they're saying, it had to have peaked well before March. And what we're seeing now is actually the second wave of what has been coming through. And will there be a third wave? Sure, because it's a virus. This thing isn't just going to go away, and we can't just lock down until there's a vaccine. Because look at the flu. The flu, and you guys can sit there and try and tell me not to compare it to the flu all you want because this thing is treated differently. It's not that much different. In fact, it's actually showing that it's less lethal than what the flu is. So how is this not like the flu? It's a virus that's contagious. It affects tons of people, and it kills the same type of people. The people who already have pre-existing conditions, who have autoimmune deficiencies, who have autoimmune diseases, who are going to chemo, who are already in hospice. They're basically the age The average age in Michigan is 73 for the people who are dying. Like, that's absurd. These are people that are in nursing homes and all that. And I'm not saying these lives aren't important. What I'm saying is they're making this thing out to be like this world killer, and it's not even close. And they're trying to basically say that this is more serious than what it really is. And the numbers just don't add up to that. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description where you can see a couple of doctors from the California area where they talk about the numbers and the growth of this and how it's already been widespread and all the data that's behind it. And they lay it out for you perfect. So go watch that video. You can watch the full thing, and they will show you exactly what we've been talking about, what I've been talking about. And I'm not no expert. I'm no doctor, obviously. But that doesn't mean I can't look at data. That doesn't mean I can't look at the statistics and put the numbers together. It's just math. It's just looking at what's in front of us and either saying, yes, this makes sense, or it doesn't. I don't have to be an expert to say that, to be able to put it together. Now I've got these experts who are saying the exact same thing. And again, this isn't about being right or wrong. This is about the fact that people need to open their eyes and they need to see this thing for what it truly is. For you people that have had somebody affected by this, this is not geared towards you. I'm not telling you that this isn't real. I'm not telling you that this virus isn't real and isn't dangerous. It is dangerous. It can affect those people who have those pre-existing conditions, and it can even affect people who don't have those pre-existing conditions. Granted, the number is really, really small of the people who are healthy that are being affected by it, but it still is affecting people. It doesn't warrant a lockdown. It doesn't warrant any of this stuff or collapsing our entire economy over this and putting our hospitals in jeopardy of, basically not having enough workers for when we do reopen because so many people are furloughed right now. And people are just killing their immune system by being locked inside. I firmly believe that my household had this thing over the last couple months ago now, because we were all deathly sick. We all couldn't breathe. We all, saw the symptoms that they're talking about. Now, were we deathly ill? No. I mean, we were just bothered. We were annoyed with, being stuck in the house sick, but we definitely weren't dying by any means. We saw the minor symptoms from the whole thing. But I just wanted to put this together and show you guys the data. And let's use this. I want to use this as an example now. For those of you who are saying, well, the reason the numbers are so low is because of the precautions that we put in place. Well, that's not true. If you look at Ohio, for example, I keep using Ohio because it's the data I have in front of me. I'm sure all the other states are the same way. I'll have to go look at it. But Ohio, if you look at Ohio, the projections that they had for them, you can see here, were if no mitigation was put in place, if we didn't do a lockdown, then they would have saw 62,000 cases per day by March 22nd. Okay? Here you can see the governor of Ohio put in a lockdown order, a stay home, stay safe order on the 23rd. So what does that mean? The mitigation wasn't put in place beforehand. How many cases did they have on the 22nd? 351. And then he put in the lockdown. Okay? And that was because other states were putting in lockdowns and just to make sure to be safe. I get it. The problem is we didn't see anything close to the numbers that they projected. So that right there shows you that the lockdown was not necessary. We're not seeing drastic low cases because of these lockdowns. If anything, according to these doctors, these lockdowns could be causing these viruses to spread more within households because things are made of plastic, because you go to a grocery store in plastic bags, and it's shown that this virus can live on plastic for up to 3 days. So again, not my words. These are the doctor's words. I'm just giving you what they said. You can go and watch these interviews on your own if you want. The links are in the description. But what we need to realize is this thing is being blown way out of proportion. For those of you who are affected by this thing, I'm super, super sorry for your loss. I'm super sorry for anybody that had to deal with this. And anybody that's gotten the flu, I'm super sorry. Anybody that's gotten, cancer or anything, I feel bad for anybody that has to deal with death. Death is not fun. Death is not something that I want to deal with, and I don't want anybody to deal with it. But the fact of the matter is, we are killing our economy. We are putting more lives in danger. Here's a stat for you. I know people who work at the Detroit Police Department. Domestic violence is up 300% since the lockdown. Child molestation is up since the lockdown. Alcohol abuse is up since the lockdown. Suicide rates are up since the lockdown. All of these things have long-term effects on people's lives, not just getting a cold, getting a virus, and then getting better. Because the numbers show 90 some odd percent, I don't even know the statistics right in front of me, but it's 90, it's a really high 90 number, 90 some percent recover from this thing, no problem. Now, the death rate, again, is, if we were to take and multiply it by 40, it's at, which they should, because the data shows that we're miscalculating the numbers by a lot. That shows that the death rate is actually 0.14. If we multiply it by 80 at the high end, you're looking at 0.07%, which is lower, much lower than the flu. So y'all can sit there and, and you can sit there and tell me not to compare to the flu all you want, but the fact of the matter is this thing is definitely just like the flu when it comes to that stuff. So everybody going through this, I'm sorry. Hopefully we get out of this real quick. Hopefully, I know Michigan, we just got extended to the 15th. I have no idea why. None of it makes sense. Our numbers are dropping. We're not seeing anything. Locking down is not going to prevent another wave from coming. It's not going to happen. We've already proven that the hospitals are not getting overrun. They've been less than overrun forever now. They never got overwhelmed. It's been ridiculous to say, I understood the lockdown in the beginning. It made sense because we didn't know what was going on. But after a couple of weeks, when the data comes in and we know who the vulnerable people are, we should have been saying, okay, those of you who are sick need to isolate. Those of you who are vulnerable need to isolate. Those of you who are high risk, you need to isolate. And that includes me. This is not a biased thing that I'm saying. That includes me because my son has an autoimmune disease. I would have to stay isolated or take super precautions or use a mask wherever I go. But that doesn't mean we have to shut the whole country down. For those of you who are saying, oh, you're selfish, you just don't care about lives, you should care about these people who are dying. Yeah, absolutely. And I also care about all the other people who are going to die from suicide and from, all the other, the domestic violence cases and the shootings and whatever else may be going on. I care about all lives. And the fact of the matter is what this lockdown is doing is causing more pain to the entire country than what the virus itself is. Now, that's not saying those deaths aren't important, again, but that's saying that this is overblown and we need to get out of this lockdown. This makes zero sense to stay locked down. Now, the data is going to continue to come out. I'm going to continue to research it, and I'm going to continue to present it. You guys can either listen to it, because it's not from me. This is straight from the doctor's mouth. This is straight from the CDC. This is straight from all the people who are working in those fields. Now, I've talked to a couple of nurses and a couple of people who work in the areas that are like, holy cow, these people who are getting it and are dying from it, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. I get that. I'm not saying it's not. But I'm not saying that we need to be locked up because of it. People get these things all the time. And I know it sounds insensitive, but people die every day. It sucks. 120,000 people die every single day. And it's part of the cycle. It's how it goes. And we can't kill everybody to try to save a couple. It just doesn't work that way.